Good morning. Y'all, it's just me today, and I'm sorry. I tried to get Timmy out here this morning and to do a live, and he goes, I can't. I need to get an early start. And then we sat there and talked over coffee, and he didn't get the early start. So here I am. You just have me, and I have to apologize. We haven't been here in a couple weeks. If you're just new to joining us for our live coffee chat, I'm one of 5 of the Bradshaw family members, and the rest aren't here. Lyndon's upstairs, Gavin is at work, Morgan no longer lives here, and Timmy is outside getting started. So anyways, we started this a couple years ago, almost 3 years exactly, having coffee because we moved to a state where we know nobody, and I missed our friends and family. So and we used to have coffee together on our porch all the time. And I miss that. So I'm like, how can I connect with our friends and family and still have coffee? Here we go, live online. Nothing special. We just sit there and chit chat and talk about what's on Timmy's heart and that we needed to get out of there. And we moved our family off grid here in the mountains of East Tennessee, where we live now. And yes, we are off grid. We have internet connection via satellite, and we have solar, electricity, rainwater collection, and we also have an artesian well on our property. And it's actually exactly 1/2 mile from our house down the mountain, and it's 2,500 feet. Yeah. And anyways, so that's how we live, and we talk about everything that we got going on. But today is this is one of those things that if you still have the link that you can watch later. I was just checking to see if anybody here was on. Oops. Hang on. Okay. So anyhow, good morning, Tammy. How are you, sister? One of the things I wanted to talk about, because we haven't had coffee in the last couple weeks, and y'all, I might just go ahead. I'm always waiting for Timmy, and he's always like, I got to do, and sometimes I'm the same way. So I'm gonna try not to stick to a schedule with coffee and just have it whenever I can, whenever I feel like it. So if you catch me, great. If you don't, I'm sorry, and we'll catch up next time. But we have not talked in a couple weeks, and I felt like we were way overdue. I wait. Our internet is out, but thank goodness for mobile. Yeah, welcome to my world, Tammy. We have that all the time, although we have no mobile. So if the satellite's out, it's out. We can't get 911. We can't get anybody. It's but it's sometimes it's a bad thing and sometimes it's not so bad. Anyhow, um I guess I'm going to talk about back to our journey because I think a lot of people feel the same way right now. 4 years ago, Timmy came to me and said, Amber, I think God's putting on my heart that we need to move. And I'm like, you're crazy. And if you've been part of our journey for length of time, so years of marriage, and um, it says, please wait. So if it buffers, y'all, that's just our internet. There's nothing I can do about it. If it gets too aggravating to listen to or watch, I apologize. But that's the only thing I can do. It's the only connection I have. Anyhow, we had a construction business. It was just us, mom and pop. We didn't have employees, but we had a really good clientele, and life was decent. We lived by the ocean, and our kids were really good. We had, everything kind of going on. And I thought we would retire there. We built that house, and it had our kids' handprints in the concrete, and it had my garden just the way I wanted, and made everything. And the county building and zoning told me, hey, Amber, you dropped this lawsuit, just let, and because I had a constitutional attorney, and because they put some laws in place that were against the law. And illegally, matter of fact, without due process. And they knew I had a good case. And my husband, Timmy's like, Amber, I can't sleep at night. I just feel like every day they're going to knock on our door. And I wasn't even fighting for me. I was fighting for everybody. It's like it wasn't anything against me. The county was doing a county-wide change with some neighbors in a different neighborhood that couldn't play well together in the sandbox. I was just there standing up for what was right. And long story short, I dropped it and they went back on their word exactly 1 year later and made it everything that we were doing really against the law. They said it's called adverse permission. And basically, if it wasn't written in the building and zoning as permissible, then it was against the law. Well, in our zoning requirements, it just said where our buildings could be, 20-foot back off the front, 40-foot back off the back, 10-foot on each side. Nothing about gardening, having animals, a pool even, nothing. And they said, well, that's just ridiculous. We'll never make gardens illegal. And I said, well, then put it in writing. And they didn't. Anyways, long story short, pretty much everything that we were doing, according to them, it was against the law. So Timmy said, we need to move. I think God's pressing on my heart that we need to follow your homesteading dream. And I had already conceded that what we had was it, that I was just going to make the best of it. And, do what we could with the space that we had. Anyways, here we are. And it took us a little while to get there, but I'm telling you, when God moves and it's time, it's never your time. Just so you know, God's timing is not your timing. So you need to give up that control, give up that idea, give up those plans. You still move forward. I mean, if you're praying for a hole, don't be leaning on a shovel. And I love that little meme that was going around. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Because I hear so many people say, I'm praying for God to answer. I'm praying for God to answer me. And I'm praying for, a sign. And he's giving you signs, but you're not moving. Sometimes you need to move to step your feet in order for him to do things. Sometimes he wants you to wait. It's a really tricky thing. That's where you need to be in his will and in his word. So, because he'll give you discernment. And that doesn't mean things won't happen to try to block you. When we went to go sell our house, every block came in our path. Political issues, legal issues, people issues, everything came in our path. But he, at the 11th hour, just made everything happen. And we just kept praying, Lord, your will, this is out of our control. And so we got here. And since we got here, it has been tough, but it's been a blessing. And during this course of this pandemic, and it's pandemic, it's all been planned out by the powers that be. Everything that's going on has been orchestrated. And if you don't believe me, that's fine. I'm not asking you to. This is our journey. This is our life, But if we were in the city, there's no way I would have this peace that I have right now. None. There's no way. God, we have to pull another miracle. But Timmy's like, I know we feel called. I feel called that we need to live. He got here, and it's nothing. It's harder than what he ever expected. It isn't. I can't say that I was ready for it physically or mentally, but I did prepare myself. I did prepare myself to be without the amenities. I already conceded to that too. And I was ready, even though we were in our, midlife 50s. He's closer to 60 than I am. I was prepared for it. There was some things I wasn't prepared for. Like I wasn't prepared for the insects that affect our quality of life, the chiggers, the ticks, the gnats, there's no mosquitoes here, oddly enough. And I'm so thankful for that because Lyndon and I both have really bad reactions to bug bites. South Carolina minus the ocean breeze. So we have the same heat, we have same humidity to an extent, but no ocean breeze, no respite from that. I wasn't prepared for the wildlife that affects our livestock. But thankfully, we have a couple of livestock guardian animals that are protecting because let me tell you something, the coyotes around here are a huge problem. Bobcats, huge problem. Bears, huge problem. So, wait, let me add to that list. Fox, raccoons, and our stuff. But that first year, tell God your plans. We're like, okay, we need 1 year to raise our flock and get everybody in production. And that second year is going to be profit. And that third year, we're just going to make some more babies so we can just keep in that sustainable rotation. And Mother Nature's like, And wildlife came and took out everything that we owned. Huge bloodbath. I wasn't prepared for the flooding, but that's okay not to be prepared for everything. I'm not saying God never promises us easy life, ever. Our work is to be done here. He doesn't even promise retirement. Only one time is it ever mentioned in the Bible. So we're here to work. We have a job to do. But I know that I know that I know that we were called to this lifestyle. As hard as it is, this is home. I've never felt home before. I've always felt displaced. I'm from California, Southern California. My father was in the Air Force. My mother's family is out in Southern California, born and raised. My father's from Michigan. He got a job with General Motors before he went in the military. And after he got out of the military, we stayed in California for a while, moved to Michigan, moved back to California, back to Michigan. My ex is from Gavin's father is from South Carolina. Well, originally from Greensboro, North Carolina, where all his family is, but he was raised in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I missed the ocean, and I knew I could never go back to Southern California, and I missed the mountains because it was too expensive. It was just way out of our price range. And when we separated, I actually moved to his hometown in Myrtle Beach. That's where I met Timmy. We've been together for 25 years. We've been married for 22 years. I'm trying to remember. And even though I love the beach and I love Pawleys Island and I love South Carolina, I never felt home. And I just felt, I mean, our home was home. We made it a home. I thought we would die there. But it never felt home. And here I feel it. I don't know if it's because we're closer to nature or what, but I know where I'm supposed to be, even though it's hard, even though, it's cold, even though it gets muddy, even though I just feel home. And now I know why. With everything going on in the world, I couldn't do what we're doing now in South Carolina. We would be so stressed financially, mentally, physically. We would just be stressed. And I'm not quite sure where we would be in our relationship because you have all those stressors on top of, it's hard to be married. It's not easy. It's hard to be married. And to the right person, it's wonderful, but it's still tough. And when you put on financial burden and, the environmental burden and all of this junk going on, I'm telling you, it's a struggle. But I feel like I know that we're called to be self-sufficient as we can. It's not just a personal desire. I think it's a godly one in my life anyways. And so we're working towards that. And every time that I read the real news about what's going on with our food chain supply or what's going on in other countries or even what's going on locally when I go to the grocery store, I, one, feel a sense of urgency, but two, I also feel that sense of, thank you, God. You've led us to the right place that we need to be in our life right now. And meaning, as soon as we got here, we started raising livestock. I've told several people that was our worst mistake. We should have built our infrastructure first. We should have built our home first. We should have done this first. The first thing we did was got chickens and goats. Of course, we just heard the story about what happened to the chickens. We still have all our goats. But had we done it the other way, like we should have, good morning. How are you? Hey, Sharon. Had we, sorry, I couldn't see who was here. Had we done it the other way, we wouldn't be in that position that we are right now to provide for us with our meat and protein that we need if we can't get it at the store. I mean, we have our freezers full right now from our hogs and a cow share that we got and the rabbits that we just processed. And while I am stressed by the situation that I see at the grocery stores, I also have that sense of, thank you, God. I know we're going to eat. We're not going to starve. Um, and I know that other people, if you're not seeing what's going on, you ain't looking. Or you just kind of go to the store with those blinders on, or you're just refusing to accept what's going on. And the homesteading lifestyle is where we're called back to be right now, because the consumerism, those things are a day of the past. You try ordering something, you're going to the store to something that you have to have, that you rely on all the time. It's either gone up in price to where you're not going to be able to afford it, it's missing off the shelves, or they can't get it in. And it's not getting better, y'all. It's not. So if you haven't started, stocking up on food or figuring out a way to go without, I mean, that's a real issue in a lot of different parts of the country. And overseas, they're having huge grid issues where they're saying that people are going to freeze this winter. They're cutting off power because they're having to conserve. It's crazy. So prepare. I mean, God had people all the time. He said, store your food. There's going to be a famine that 7th year. Store it. Prepare for it so your people don't starve. He had Noah built an ark for the flood. I mean, he's always constantly having his people prepare. And it kills me when they're like, well, I'm just going to trust God to take care of it. God gave you the Holy Spirit to press on your heart, to prepare, to be wise about the things that are going around you. He tells us to be prepared all the time. So prepping and storing food and growing a garden and learning to go without electricity when needed, those things aren't paranoia. They're not conspiracy theory. They're smart for when you need them. I mean, one of the things that we learned in school was first aid. We're not going, oh, we're going to get hurt tomorrow. No, it's knowledge that you have to have in case you need it, right? And it's okay if you never have to rely on those skills. At least learn them. Am I right? The power's flicking. Timmy's using a saw. Can you tell? Um, so those are the things that I'm really thankful for. And the thing too, I've seen, and maybe other people saw it when we were moving here, but I'll never forget Mike. I want to say is Brado. I'm horrible with pronunciation. He's in our group. So when we said we feel that God's calling us to move the mountains, he says, Amber, because he asked me, he goes, why y'all moving? And I said, well, Timmy feels led by the Lord to move to the mountains. We knew nobody here, no family, no friends, never even been to the city before. And he goes, you won't believe how many fellow Christians that I know that are being called away from the coast to move to the mountains. I'm like, never thought about it really at that time. But I have several friends, and some getting ready to join us next week here on our property that feel the same way, that are getting that calling. It's not like, hey, I'm going, Tennessee's great, come and move here. They are feeling it on their own, and they're kind of dropping everything that they know, selling everything that they have, and moving here. Somebody told me, I went to that microgreens class that I taught last week, and I wish I knew, but she was talking about what Tennessee means in Cherokee, and I'm going to muck it up if I try to repeat it, but it has to be with, like, it's the volunteer state is what it's known as, the volunteer state. However, it has to do with the Lord's calling about, type of living off the land. And I'll look that up and see or contact that person and see if I can quote it directly. But it made sense when she said it. I'm like, I didn't check to verify for validity, but I was like, wow, that makes sense because we've never been to Tennessee before. We were called here. And we know that we have a job to do, a job to take care of ourselves and our family, yes, but a job to help others too. A friend of ours that we had dinner with this week, she's like, so I was cooking on the wood cook stove. So she goes, you were raised, doing this? And I'm like, no. And she goes, so you had to teach yourself? I'm like, yeah. And it's hard when you don't have multi generations of education passing down from great grandfather to son to grandson of knowledge. Ours, all this way of living has skipped like 3 or 4 generations, and we're doing it from scratch. And we don't even have YouTube. I'm on YouTube right now, y'all, but I can't watch anything on YouTube, if that makes sense. It buffers. And people send me links all the time, and I can't watch them until I drive into the city. And even then, I don't have time because I'm doing errands. So, thankfully for our groups, Old Paths to New Homesteading on Self Reliant Living on Facebook, and the Mighty Networks, My Homestead Life, because we have a wonderful variety of members that are so forthcoming and sharing their knowledge and information that if without them, without my friends and friends from the internet, I would be stuck a lot of times because there's no one to teach us. So because of that, I feel that if we can make all the mistakes for the people and then show others how to do it, I think that's what our calling is, to share what we know, what we've learned, all the things not to do, um, with others who want to know. One of the main questions that I get here about is the off-grid living and electricity. And unfortunately, most people get the misconception that they can live off grid and still have all of the amenities that they're accustomed to on the grid. And I guess you could if you had unlimited financial resources. I have a friend that spent a lot of money. I think their solar system costs like 50,000 or more. And it still does not provide for all of their electrical needs. Now it supplements, it does a wonderful job at supplementing, but it's not all of it. But they have a huge electrical demand on certain things. And now they've built a very green energy home. So even with that in mind, it still doesn't provide all of them. So for it to work for us, we've reduced a lot of our dependency on electricity altogether. And we could function here without the solar. It wouldn't be as comfortable because we do rely on electric for internet and for my job, and we rely on it for our refrigerator and obviously our lights. And the biggest thing for me is my fan. I think if I didn't have a fan, I would be miserable. I've slept with a fan all year long, my entire life. Even when I lived in Michigan, when it was freezing freaking cold, I still sleep with a fan. So if I didn't have that little creature comfort, I wouldn't like where I live at all. Timmy would have to stay up all night with me and make that noise and blow the fan right on my face, even if I have a blanket tucked around it. But the point is people need to learn to let go. And you think because you've always been accustomed to the AC, or you've always been accustomed to the Keurig coffee maker, or you've always been accustomed to blow drying your hair every single day, that you could never fathom life without it. And that's a misconception, because after you get over your stomping your feet and after you get over the inconvenience, you really do like less more. Right now, one of the biggest things, well, not right now, when we first moved here, one of the biggest adjustments was the silence. It was deafening. It was eerie. It drove me crazy because you don't realize how much sound that's infiltrating your brain every day. The TVs, the internet, your electricity, just your lights and everything, the music that you have going off these frequencies. And oh my gosh, going to a mall or something, it's stimulation overload. And you don't realize how much junk is going into your ear all day long, constantly, even in the car. And here, hearing nothing, it was it was weird. It was really, really weird. But now, for instance, Linton had her fan on this morning upstairs. I was downstairs and I'm like, what is that noise? Her fan's a little different. It's like an air purifier type. And it makes a different sound than my blowing fan. I'm like, whatever it is driving me crazy. The quiet and the dark were big adjustments. Yeah, it is. But now I it's my it's my meditation. It's my even washing our clothes, washing by hand with an old wringer and a washboard. I love that too, except when it's cold. Not a huge fan. Um, but now I listen to the birds singing, the crickets means something's going on. And I appreciate not having all of that other junk in my head all the time. Like I can hear my computer right now on and it's getting to me a little bit. But I also think that those things clog your clarity. Since being here and not being in the city, it allows me to think clear. And Timmy always says I feel closer to God here. And we do. I mean, you can't go outside and not look at everything that there is to look at and not feel closer to God. And that's another reason why we living here. But I also think too, when we first moved here, one of the things that meant for just us, where we need to use it to help bless others. And it's making sense now. Every single day that I read more junk on the news and I see what's going on, whether that water, how to survive without the grid, how to grow their own food, how to forage, you know, what is the best easiest meats to grow if you don't have a lot of property, all those types of things, because we bring that knowledge of the city with us and doing what we're doing on a very tiny scale and even indoors to, now we have a larger scale. And so people that were grown on a farm and farm, 200-300 acres, they can't wrap their head around being able to produce their food in a house that's less than 1,000 square foot. So we have that experience that we're able to share with others, and also have a community. It's a tough situation. We are meeting with like-minded people, and sometimes it's really hard to find. Sometimes you feel, especially us moving to a state where we know nobody, that you're the only one there. And we're just starting to meet other like-minded people. And let me tell you something, when we get together, you can't shut us up because we're so excited. And it's not we're doom and gloom at all. It's just nice having the people that that you can count on when you need them. And that's the part that we're getting to. I think that's where we need to have our community. And that's why also I want to start making sure that we have our coffee conversations more so we stay in contact. You with me? And but the thing about moving or feeling called to move, sometimes God tells you just to stay right where you're at, even if you don't like your situation. I have a friend of ours that's in Miami, Florida, and she's in the city and she's wanted to move for a very long time. And she does everything she can with her property. She's in a very harsh growing zone. Like now is their growing season through winter because they're so hot the other times of the year. But she's the caretaker for her spouse who is failing in health. And she thought that she'd be gone by now, that she would be moved. And she's like, well, I just got to figure out that I'm going to accept that I'm staying right here. And I need to do what I can do to protect myself and my family right here because I don't see the that God's opening any doors for us to leave anytime soon. And that's okay, because you can do a lot with right where you're at if the doors aren't opening to go somewhere else. But I do see that a lot of my fellow believers and friends are being called to move. And it's a huge movement. It's not something that's small. And I know that it's for a reason. God can't be calling all of these people all over the United States that I know to move just out of coincidence. There is no such thing, you know? And I'm really happy that some of them are moving close. If you think for any brief moment that you can be 100% self-sufficient, I don't want to burst your bubble, but it's never going to happen. Never going to happen. Especially if you have more than just you. Like, if it's just you and you want to go live in the woods somewhere and you don't require anything, then I could see the possibility, maybe. But if you're responsible for more than just you in life, there's no way that can happen. You're always going to need something that you can't produce. You're going to have a season where the crops don't do good. You're going to need oil. Your livestock's going to need feed. You need a battery. You're going to need something that you can't produce. So you're going to need community. Even if you don't have money, you have the ability to barter. And that's what I love about this area is a lot of people, they don't want money. They don't need money. Heck, even if they had money, they probably can't afford to buy what they need because the prices are. And when your community, I mean, I was talking to my friends that are getting ready to move. I'm like, heck, you guys can grow this, or you guys can raise this livestock. We're raising this livestock and we'll just trade. You know, that's great because we can't take on anymore. I mean, we have rabbits, chickens, ducks, quails, guineas, turkeys, goats, pigs. Am I forgetting some bees? We can't possibly take on any more right now. And then our dogs. You know, we've got our livestock guardian dogs, and we have our two inside dogs. And we can't. Timmy wants to raise beef. I want to raise fiber animals. We can't. But we can have someone in our community that does, and who finds value in what we have, and we find value in what they have, and we barter. You know, you just can't do it all. But I will strongly urge you, if you haven't started anything, start with one thing. Don't let it overwhelm you. Start with, I would say, canning food, because you can still have the ability to buy food. You can still have the ability to buy in bulk. You know, you can still go to a farm and ask. That way, if you do lose electricity, everything in your freezer won't go to waste. You can hurry up and can it and store it. I can't even tell you how many times throughout the hurricanes and we lost electricity and everybody just had great big barbecues and cookouts during the time that we were blocked from getting out of our road and everything was still flooded because we had to hurry up and eat everything in our freezers before it went bad. We didn't can. We cooked and had a party. And then after all the food was gone, we're like, oh, we hope the grocery stores open back up really soon. So yeah, if you just learn the canning. You know, first learn your water bath, learn your pressure canning, and then go from there. If you already know how to can and you haven't grown any food, start with something small. Someone's like, where do I start? I said, well, what do you eat the most of that grows in your area? That's important. Don't go, well, I like bananas and you live in Michigan. You ain't growing bananas, you know, unless you have a climate controlled indoor greenhouse with the lights and all that stuff. But, you know, find out what you eat the most of, one thing, and if it can grow in your area, and start there. That way, you know, you can always provide that one thing. Next thing that I would strongly suggest is learn how to go without electricity. You know, I have a little step by step. If you've never been, turn off your power for a day and see how y'all react, you know, and try to be less dependent on those things and develop your community. I mean, there is a lot of places where you can go to meet like-minded people, go to a 4-H meeting, go to the local county fair, go to the local feed store, go classes. Most every extension that I've looked at offers classes and workshops. They offer canning, they offer gardening, they have some do meat production. They have all sorts of classes that you can go to and get out your comfort zone a little bit and go out and meet some of those people. If you want to meet like-minded people, go where they are. That's why I mentioned the feed store. Drum up a conversation, you know. I know it's tough. I've been there. I'm doing it now. But you'll find them if you put yourself out there a little bit. Like there's a prepper group here. You could see if there's any local prepper groups in your area. We're fortunate enough that the prepper group found us just by happenstance because they saw that I taught a workshop. And they're like, well, maybe she wants to teach a workshop for us. So they contacted me. I taught a soap making class. We fell in love. We went again for a canning class. I just finished teaching a microgreening class, and we're going to go again in November and again in December. And we have some friends that we met. Heck, one of the members just bought my 3 goats that we needed to get rid of. So it's just been a blessing all the way around. But yeah, we need community. You might want to be left alone and move out the city. That's fine. You might want to move in the middle of nowhere where you don't even have cell service. That's fine too, but you still need community. And Tammy said, agree. Total self-sufficiency just won't happen. Even the Amish aren't. Nope. Unfortunately, though, Tammy, that is a pipe dream that a lot of people are seeing. Me attitude and every need for himself. And I see that all over in my niche in the blogging world. And it's sad because we're not called to be by ourselves. We're called to have community and support one another and lean on one each other and carry each other's burdens. And even if that burden is not being able to grow food, or even if that burden's not being able to chop wood, we're to support and take care of each other in our community. So that's about it. I just wanted to ask how many people, are being felt to, or led to, I should say, to move. Not necessarily physically move, but maybe even move towards self-sufficiency, towards it, even move towards homesteading, or just feel that urgency. And that urgency shouldn't mean an overwhelm, but it definitely should mean action. Whether it's just and for people, oh yes, Sharon, that's really good point, because dehydration is about that this coming week, because we need to dehydrate a lot of our herbs with the coming cold, so we have them all winter. And I think that is a great point to have with dehydration. If you're nervous about canning, trust me, I've been there. The pressure canning, my mom instilled that fear in me when I was very young, to the point where hi, I'm Amber, and I've canned things that weren't safe. Yes, I'm still alive to talk about it, but I hope not to repeat that mistake again in the future. Just did water bath canning my whole life. And that canning class with a prepper group was a pressure canning class for meat, because we have 2 freezers full of meat, which is thousands of dollars worth of inventory. And if we lost power, because that is on the grid at their cabin, it is now off grid here with us. If we lost power and it was summer or something, we would be in trouble. I would have to hurry up and can that stuff. So I'm very happy that I took that class. I'm very happy for the girl that offered that I'm not going to kill myself or blow up my house with pressure canning. But you could dehydrate as well. You could do salt curing. You could do like beef jerky and stuff to can that. That's a lot of meat that you would have to dehydrate or salt cure if we didn't pressure can. But yeah, those are great tips. So you could there's always something. And the main part is community. So if you say, hey, I don't know where to start. My head's spinning. The world's driving me crazy. I'm too stressed to even wrap my head around it, but I know I need to do something. Reach out. We've all been there. We're going through it now. Let's lean on each other, help carry each other's burdens, and encourage each other just to take that one step forward. And we can all do this together. I think that's the main thing out of all of it. We're not to cure each other's problems. We're not going to solve them, but we can all get through this together and still have the peace that God gives us, knowing, hey, it's always going to be okay. He'll send you somebody that you need in your life to help you. And maybe that somebody's just us. Not necessarily me and Timmy, but us, our community that we have online. So Old Paths to New Homesteading, Self-Reliant Living in Facebook, if you're still on there. I'm kind of on all of them. I'm going to try to be on Gab a little bit more as time allows, just because it's not as censored. And I mean, stupid little post about crocheting won't get deleted and blocked. I'm on a warning right now. Crocheting, y'all, is what I shared in my last block was crocheting. I can't make this stuff up. But the Mighty Network is our social media group that I pay for. So it's ours and it doesn't get censored. And we have great members that are very active in there too. So I'm going to let you go because I have a lot to do. And I didn't even get to that part. We're opening a new store. It's not a whole store. We're renting space, if that makes sense. But we're not confined to a space. It's in Morristown, Tennessee, and we're really excited about it. It's a little scary because I've never had to pay rent before for my stuff, but we do feel very good about it. We feel that this is where God's leading us, and that's going to go in this week. Start canning that stuff that I got in the freezer. Because I need to make some room for venison. It's deer hunting season, and we definitely need a bag and tag of deer because I love venison. I love that meat. Anyways, y'all have a blessed day, and I am sorry that we haven't had coffee with y'all more. We're having coffee. It's just I haven't stopped to pause, just trying to get ready for the store. I mean, I have like 60 different products that I make, and it's just me, and it's a lot. So anyways, you guys have a blessed day, and please keep in touch. Find your community within our groups. Lean out or reach out if you need anything, or just encouragement and support, or just, you want to talk more and let us know that, or have us let you know it's all going to be okay. Can't talk, but I'm thinking it. All right. Thanks for putting up with me. Bye.